Okay guys, we're going to hit the last few little bullets on our study guide right now. We've already covered all the vocabulary, so all this stuff should be kind of review stuff we're talking about here. We're looking at some graphs and other stuff. First thing we're going to look at is the supply and demand curve. Now we have talked about this until we're blue in the face. Okay, it should be all review to you. This should not be very difficult. Now we're going to talk real quick about price ceilings and price floors, but nothing real complex. Okay, so the first thing you see here is we have a graph that we use on a supply and demand curve. The y-axis, or the left, will show price, while the bottom shows quantity supplied or demanded. Now that depends on the curve and which way you're looking at it. Okay, so I'm going to use some different colors here to hopefully show and let you see supply and demand from different point of view. So the first curve we have here is a supply curve. Now remember, supply curves always go up. Okay, so they're going to start in the bottom or the origin and go up. The second curve, the blue curve, is a demand curve. You can see it goes down, starts in the top corner, goes to the bottom. I've written over here supply and demand in the matching color so we don't get confused about that. Okay, the point where these curves meet in the middle is called equilibrium. Okay, remember from your earlier notes, we've already talked about what equilibrium is, but that is where supply and demand meet. I use this green color here to show you equilibrium. Now, what we're going to talk about real quick is a price ceiling and a price floor. Now, remember, this is where it gets confusing because price floors are always above equilibrium. Now, that doesn't make sense, right? But they are. And the reason why is because you can't drop your price to equilibrium where you would want to have it if you could. Okay, but this line right here is a price floor. Remember, price floors surpluses. Now, remember, a surplus is when your supply exceeds your demand. So if you look on the graph, the red line is further in quantity than the blue line is, so you have a surplus. Now a price ceiling, which will be below equilibrium. I know that's kind of confusing, but it's below equilibrium. It will create a shortage. As you look, the blue line is further on the quantity line than the red line is, which means you have a shortage or a demand exceeding your supply amount. Now that's just something you kind of got to memorize. I know I hate saying that, but I mean, I mess up on it. We're going to mess up on it, but that's something we really kind of need to memorize. The ceilings are below equilibrium and create shortages, and price floors are above equilibrium and create surpluses. So let's look real fast at elasticity. I'm not going to cover what elastic means, inelastic means, unit elastic means, because we've already talked about those. I'm going to show you real quick what the graphs look like. Okay, this blue line, this first flat line, usually is more elastic. Okay, remember it's not going to be a straight flat line. It will have some curve in it, but it's going to be more flat. Now the steeper line, or the sharp line here, is inelastic. Okay, that means something's a want, or a need, I'm sorry. A need. Elastic is a want, inelastic is a need, something you have to survive. So this is going to be more of a sharp, steep line. Will not be straight, remember, but it will be more flat. The last line is a unit elastic curve. It's kind of going to split the middle of them. It's going to be proportional. Now, the big thing with proportional means equal change. So 10% decrease leads to a 10% increase, or vice versa, depending on supply or demand. Okay, this is your circular flow model. So real quick, I'm going to pull up one circular flow model I already have drawn because to save a little time. Okay, if you look here, this is a circular flow model for Coca-Cola. Okay, for those of y'all that were in the class when I drew this, yes, that is the Coca-Cola logo, and yes, it's awesome. But here's how it works. Okay, we'll start at the bottom here at the resource market. Okay, resource market is raw materials. If you look, we have things like glass, water, sugar, caffeine, air, metal, plastic, all things that go into making a Coca-Cola. That's bottling and everything. What they then do is they give those raw materials to the business. The business is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola makes Coca-Cola Classic, puts it in a can, bottles it, sells it to the product market, Walmart, whoever. They then sell it back to the consumers, who then work for the resource market. Now, I know that was super quick in going over that, so you might need to look over it again to get the idea. Also, look at the way money flows. Now, remember, money flows the opposite direction, and I know these notes aren't really matching up with what I'm saying, but that's fine because I want to explain this real quick, and changing quantity demand, it doesn't take long. Money flows the other way, so you see the household gives money to the product market for the finished Coke, who then gives it to Coca-Cola to buy more Coke, who then gives it to the resource market for more raw materials, who then gives it to the household for labor. Okay, so that's quick. Look at it again. I know that was fast, didn't give you enough time. I'm sorry, that's kind of what happens when the first time you're making this video. Okay, change in quantity demanded. Anytime price changes at all, you will see quantity demanded change. Okay, you see I've got my demand curve here. Remember, this deals with price changing, nothing else. Okay, so we're not going to have a new curve. Okay, remember we talked about the curve shifting, but the curve's not going to shift here. This is just going to be a change in the point. All right, so here in a second you'll look, as I'm labeling my graph, we're going to show you what it looks like when price changes on a graph. Okay, so let me get a new color here so I can show you, make a little sense. If our product costs $10, okay, point A is $10. That's what we're selling our product for right now. Our demand will be about $4. I'll draw that in a second. What if we moved our price to $20? Okay, that's point B. Did that cause an increase or decrease in demand? Well, we know from the law of demand that anytime we increase our price, it's going to cause a decrease in demand, which you can see here. It goes from 4 to about 3 units. Okay, the line has actually not changed at all, but our curve has shifted, or not shifted, our point has shifted. I'm sorry. We've moved from point A to point B. We've just moved along the line. Anytime price changes, you're just going to move along the line. Nothing else, no new curve, just change along the line. Now, change in demand, on the other hand, is when you have an actual shift in the curve. Now, remember I said there were 6 things that can cause a change in demand. I'm not going to talk about those in this video. If you need to, go look them up in the book, in your notes, whatever. You've got a worksheet on them, I know. So I know it's in there. What I'm going to do is show you what it looks like when a demand curve changes or shifts. And I'm going to show you a shift to the positive side. Also know it can shift to the negative, which is back to the left. But I'm going to show you it shifting to the right. Basically what happens here is price does not change. So let me get a new color here, show you red. If you look at $3, our quantity demanded is 20 units. Okay, go back, get my original color here, so draw you a new one, or a different color. What happens is if my demand increases, let's say people love my product, whatever it is, my price hasn't changed at all, it's still $3, but my demand has increased. In order to show that, I have to shift my curve to the right. Okay, that is a positive shift. Okay, if it goes to the right, it's positive. Now, if people hated my product, but my price stayed the same, my curve would shift to the left, or be a negative shift. Okay. The big thing, also remember, price is not going to change at all. Okay, price will stay the same. And like I said, there are 6 things that can change that. I'm not going to go into those right now because that would take a long time, and I know you don't want to sit there and listen to me talk about them again. Also, if you don't have them, go on my website, coachpipesecon.wikispaces.com. Go on there. There's a full PowerPoint with it on there. You can get everything, including, what else is on there? Any worksheets are on there that might help you. So if you need to go back and look at a worksheet again, that's fine. Do that. So now, I'm going to just briefly talk about change in quantity supplied. It works the exact same way as change in quantity demand. You see here we got point A, we moved to point B, our price has increased, and as a result our supply will increase. Know that anytime it says change in quantity, either demand or supplied, you're getting a new price. You're not getting a new curve. The point is moving along the curve versus shifting over, creating a new supply curve. Okay, so take a second, look at this, refresh yourself. We're almost done. We're on to the last little section here where we're going to talk about the 3 types of businesses. Earlier I talked about notes during the notes section or the vocabulary section about sole proprietorship. Basically what I'm going to do right now is give you a few advantages and disadvantages of each. Yes, you'll have to know these on your test. These are just the major ones. Okay, let me get my pen ready here. The first advantage of a sole proprietorship, it is easy to start. Basically what that means is if you have enough money to start a business, you can start it. That is a sole proprietorship. You're running the business by yourself. Also, since you run it by yourself, it's easy to manage. Okay, you don't have to really please anybody because besides the consumer who's going to buy your product, but you're the boss. You make all the decisions, so it's easy to manage. And the best part about a sole proprietorship is all the profits go to the owner, which is you. You make the most money. Okay, but like we all know, everything that has advantages also has its disadvantages. One of the disadvantages of a sole proprietorship is unlimited liability. Basically, what that means, if the business goes under and you owe people money, they can take your personal items to pay for those. Okay, if you owe the bank money on a loan and you own a house through that bank, they can take your house to pay that loan back. So it's unlimited liability. Also, hard to raise money. Really, the only person contributing money is you. You're the owner. Also, since it's so small, that can be a negative because it's hard to reach out to people, get people to purchase your items, come in your store, buy your baked goods if that's what you're making. Next type is a partnership. Partnership is easy to start as well. It's also easy to manage. In fact, it might be a little easier to manage because there's 2 or more people to split the work up with. Okay? You can get more money easier. The reason is because you have more than one person contributing money. Okay? For example, if you and the person sitting next to you start a business, you both contribute equal amounts of money. It's a little easier to start than if you were doing it by yourself. Last thing we've already talked about, you share the work with someone else. Not as much work on your own. Hopefully that helps make things easier on you. The disadvantage, you are fully responsible for your partner, or all partners in fact. Just like when you're doing group work, if one person doesn't do anything and you get a bad grade, you get the bad grade as well because you're responsible for them. You have to, always be looking out for them. Now, this is why they have the phrase, never start a business on friendship, because businesses can put stress on friendships. And the reason is because you can have conflict between partners. So these are the big things with partnership. Like I said, we're not going to really focus a lot on partnerships because they're very rare you find a partnership. Okay. Last one, corporation. This is the big one. When I say big one, I mean literally the big one, because they have a lot of people that own them. Okay. It's easy to raise money. You sell stock to raise money. The way stock works is, you buy a share of the company, so technically you're loaning that company money in hopes it makes a lot and then you get some money back. Another advantage, limited liability. You can only lose what you've invested in that business. You can't lose everything because it is a separate entity. You can only lose what you put in. Another thing is unlimited life. Let's say the owner of a corporation dies, that corporation continues to exist. So even if if you're a part owner in that, you can continue running that business and making money, even when the person who ever started it died. Disadvantage is very hard to become incorporated. It's a long legal process, years it takes to become incorporated. Very rarely do you see companies coming into the corporation. Usually start sole proprietorship, partnership, go to corporation. Another negative, double taxation. Since a corporation is a legal entity, it is taxed separately than everything else. Okay? So you're taxed twice. You're taxed on the business money and your income. Not a great thing. Last thing, more government regulations are negative of corporations. Okay, so that's really all we got for our study guide. Okay, remember, this is used to help you fast forward, rewind, do whatever it takes to get this done. Okay, remember your test is going to be Tuesday. Bonus points, 5 bonus points for putting it on flashcards. I'm a big believer in the flashcards. Okay, so hopefully this helps. If not, I'm sorry. We'll figure out something that'll help. Let me know if you have any questions. Email me, ask me in class, that sort of thing. Okay. I hope you have a great day, and go Panthers.